Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back for your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Zilliqa, aka Zil. And with that in mind, let's just dive in and let's start off with a few things. So I honestly don't even remember the last time that I talked about Zilliqa. It's been a while, probably about roughly a year or so. And this is still one of those tokens that I feel is just a sleeping giant in disguise. This was overlooked back in 2020, all the way up until 2021, where we did see a big move. And I do think that going into the next major cycle, I think that Zilliqa is going to surprise a lot of people. I think that Zilliqa was a shocker back in 2022 as well, when it started to pick up some traction here. It went to about roughly almost 20 cents back in April of 2022. And it did surprise a lot of people back then. This is when we started to see a lot of hype around Zilliqa. And of course, the rest of the market just cascaded upon itself with Luna and a whole bunch of other problems as well. But today, I am still looking at Zilliqa as becoming a major giant around the Web3 space. And we are going to be talking about why. First and foremost, though, let's go over a few things. Max supply, 21 billion, total supply about roughly 18 billion, circulating supply almost 16 billion. Now, the thing about Zilliqa that is very interesting is some of the statistics behind the network, which we will dive into. But first, I want to go over a few things around price. So first and foremost, I have been buying this like 1.5 cent zone for a little bit of time when we do see it. But ultimately 1.5 cents to about roughly 3 cents long term is going to be a pretty well area to be buying. And I do think that it's going to be very profitable. Now, of course, we could see as low as about roughly 1.25 cents. So anywhere within this area here is a big buy. If we do lose that 1.25 cent zone, then I will get a little bit concerned because we could see some pretty significant lows being ran. And I'm looking more so back at the November 19 or November 2019 into like the March of 2020 zone. There's a lot of demand down there. We could see it, but in my personal opinion, I do believe that roughly 1.5 cents down to about 1.25 cents is going to be the big area of opportunity. But I have been buying anywhere between 1.5 cents to 3 cents. For the long term, because I don't think that it's going to really matter long term when we are in a bull run yet again, because remember that interest around crypto right now is essentially dead. There's not a lot of retail in this space right now, and if we are even just going off of the recent all-time high, this would be roughly about a 16x off of the 1.5 cent zone. Off of 3 cents, it's a little bit different of a story. But if we are looking at a conservative price level in the next bull run, I'm looking at roughly about a $10 billion market cap, roughly about almost 60 cents, an upside of about 35x off of the lows that we are at today. So with that in mind, let's dive into a few things. So first off, network statistics. So Ina from, I believe, Everstake Pool, she actually posted about the latest Zilliqa stats. Over 31% of the circulating supply is now securely staked by more than 110,000 Zilliqa delegators. Check out our comprehensive staking guide and maximize the potential of your Zil holdings. Now, here we have the statistics. So first off, number of delegators, roughly about 100 and almost 11,000. And we do see the total staked, roughly about 5.7, almost 5.8 billion of the supply is locked away in staking. That is a pretty significant number. It is roughly 31%. And if you guys really wanted to see that, you guys are more than welcome to go over to the network statistics over on their website. And here you guys have the staked down here, roughly about 5.75 billion, actually about roughly 4.3 million were added to the staking pool. And you could also see some other statistics on here as well. Pretty significant. By the way, full transparency, because I know that it's going to be a question down in the comments. I'm not paid by Zilliqa. I don't do paid ad spots on this channel. I don't get paid by any projects to talk about them. I talk about them because I do think that they are very interesting or possibly undervalued. Now, also in terms of the Explorer, you can look more into the Explorer over here. Roughly 4.7 million addresses within Zilliqa. You can see the transactions. Currently speaking, the TPS is about roughly 0.6. I know that that is nothing too significant because I know that there's other networks out there that are doing significant TPS. But you got to understand that Zilliqa is extremely overlooked, and there's not a massive amount of individuals utilizing Zilliqa today. There is a lot of projects which we will go over as well, but it is still early on in its days. Now, with that, let's go and look at the transactions actually. So transactions have been seeing a major growth on Zilliqa. Here we have from House of Chimera, steady growth. In transactions on Zilliqa, a year in review, the number of transactions on Zil have increased by nearly 150% since December of 2022. One of the catalysts of this growth could be the EVM integration earlier in April of 2023. And like I said, they are still building heavily. They did launch back in late, I want to say I was going to say 2017. So it was like around roughly 2018, 2017. So they are still very early on, but they have been building constantly and making a ton of noise within the space. And if we actually look at the transactional growth, it is pretty significant. 150% is nothing to joke about. So I think that this is actually pretty interesting to see. And again, it really kind of puts into perspective that Zilliqa is becoming still a giant within the space. So in terms of tokenomics, if we actually see here, the staking phase 1.1 has about 6.2 billion ZIL. That would bring it up to about the 18 billion total supply. And also the second wallet address here, the null address, this is burned ZIL. So about roughly 2.9, almost 3 billion Zilliqa has been burned, worth about roughly $49 million. So these are all burned. This one is, like I said, staking rewards for validators and also for, I'm pretty sure, miners. I'm pretty sure you can mine ZIL. I might be wrong on that, but I do know that you could stake ZIL. But in terms of the tokenomics for Zilliqa, I've always said like the tokenomics for Zilliqa are not bad at all compared to some of the other major tokens out there, which is why I do think that conservatively Zilliqa will reach a $10 billion market cap in the next major cycle. And even if we look at the ecosystem as well, so like I said, consistent building, consistent growth, and the ecosystem has now, so they haven't updated this since January 18th of 2022. But during that time, they had about 197 projects. I would argue that this number has probably increased by about 50% or so. So we might be at about roughly almost 300 projects on here. And the reason why I say that is because we have seen major announcements of new projects on Zilliqa. For example, the biggest one recently was Tyron Decentralized Exchange. This is a decentralized exchange that combines familiar DeFi protocols and tools with the sovereign identity functionality of the Tyron SSI protocol. There has been a lot of decentralized exchanges launching within the Zilliqa ecosystem, and the DeFi space has been growing rapidly as well. Even if we look here at DeFi, for example, during January of 2022, there was about 17 projects. And like I said, this has not been updated yet. I would love for them to update this. I mean, I see Tyron Network here, but I would be interested to see if these numbers are accurate or not. I would like to see this fully updated just to kind of see what's happening within the ecosystem, just to kind of see a little bit of an updated view. But again, like I said, there has been a lot of initiatives on the Zilliqa ecosystem, and this has been expanding rapidly, and there's a ton of great projects already building within the Zilliqa ecosystem. And I'm sure that you guys probably know a few of them, like for example, Xcademy. That's a big one to like watch to earn, for example. That was a pretty big one that a lot of people are probably aware of. If you're not, then it's totally fine, but that has been a big project. Now also, in terms of the Zilliqa platform, you guys are probably aware of these statistics. If you're not, it's okay. So if we actually scroll down, we do see a few things. So one, pushing the boundaries. Currently speaking, Zilliqa can handle about roughly 2.8 thousand TPS versus the legacy blockchains. It's night and day. But again, when we're comparing this to like Hedera and stuff, yes, it does get overshadowed a bit. But 2.8K transactions per second is not too bad for what Zilliqa has built upon the network. And remember that they could scale with use, which takes me to the next stage here, scales with network size. So Zilliqa can divide the network into multiple groups by implementing network sharding. This is something that Hedera actually has as well, which allows them to achieve unlimited TPS. This could essentially allow Zilliqa to scale a lot more when needed. So again, the 2,800 TPS, well, guess what? We don't really have to worry about that in the future because it could scale with network size and adoption. And of course, low gas fees, roughly about a penny or so. Again, when we really kind of look at those fees, if it even is a penny, it's still very efficient, and it could also help Zilliqa, the token, rise drastically in price with adoption. I do think that they're not going to have a problem with adoption, and also recently we've seen that Zilliqa 2.0 could very well be coming this year. But why is Zilliqa 2.0 needed? Well, in Discovery episode 22 with Richard Watts, CTO of Zil, we discussed why Zilliqa 2.0 is needed, what it brings, and why the current code base is insufficient. Listen closely.
So can we see upgrades before we see Zilliqa 2.0, or are you guys really just overhauling the whole system and pushing Zilliqa 2.0 out as soon as possible?
We're pushing Zilliqa 2 out as soon as possible, frankly, in terms of functionality. I mean, if there are things developers particularly want, then definitely look into them. And if they're not, major things, then we can certainly implement them. Mm-hmm. But realistically, the big things that certainly we want out, we've seen people want out of the chain are fast finality, mixed trust shards, gas stations, and on-chain accounts. And those are things that really are a Zilliqa 2 thing, not a Zilliqa 1 thing.
I see. And that's just mainly because it's not possible currently with the current code base? Or what is just stopping you guys to implement it in Zilliqa 1? Fast
finality is certainly not easy with the current code base, partly just because of its consensus and its trust assumptions. Rely on having a large number of validators, and coordinating a large number of validators in a small amount of time is a complicated thing to do. In terms of mixed trust shards, it's again possible but extremely difficult. The others are easier, but we felt that the pressure for fast finality and X sharding was sufficiently high that we ought to get those done first. So that's what we're doing.
So there you guys have it. And I do think that these upgrades should 100% be mentioned. Listen, when we talk about Casper 2.0, for an example, it's a huge thing, right? Because what it brings is more efficiencies to the network, which again bring a lot more opportunity around developers to bring in a lot more scalable use cases around DeFi, for an example, which again, a lot of people focus heavily on DeFi simply because we actually look at DeFi, well, we get TVL, we get an economy within the network, and it really kind of provides a lot of value to the token itself. So I am very excited for Zilliqa 2.0. And as we do look at Zilliqa 2.0 and as we look at adoption and growth within the network, I do think that Zilliqa is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next major cycle run. And I think that everyone should be heavily focused on a lot of these projects that have been around for a while, that have a team behind them, that are constantly building and making sure that, listen, we're here to build. We believe in Web3. We're not gonna, be phased out by price action or the bear market. We're gonna continue to build. And like I said, Zilliqa has been around for a while. It did hit almost roughly 25 cents in the last bull run. I do think that this could very well double that price action and ultimately go a little bit higher. Like I said, I can see this being a $5 to $10 billion project. And even at $5 billion, remember, we're talking about roughly almost 30 cents, still an upside of about 17x today. But I think that it could overshoot it and go to $10 billion, which would be almost 60 cents, a roughly 35x opportunity run. So with that in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Peace out.